The colony ship touched the ground with a soft hum, its engine slowly cooling after a long flight across the skies of the alien world. The air outside shimmered faintly, carrying strange colors in the wind, as if light itself bent in unusual ways. Aaron stood near the ship's door, waiting for clearance to step outside. His heart beat faster than usual, not from fear, but from the excitement of being one of the first humans to explore this part of the galaxy. The world was called Ilthera, a lush planet filled with glowing forests, silver rivers, and skies painted in hues of violet and gold. Human scouts had discovered it only a decade ago, and already there was contact with the people who lived there. They were known as the Iltherans, tall and graceful beings with skin that shimmered faintly like crystal under sunlight. Some were cautious of humans, but others had welcomed trade and cultural exchange. Aaron had dreamed of meeting them since childhood. Now, as he adjusted his exploration suit and checked his small pack, he knew the dream was finally real. The door opened. With a hiss, warm air rushed inside, filled with the scent of flowers and minerals unlike anything on Earth. Aaron stepped down the ramp and into the alien world. Around him, other humans busied themselves unloading supplies and equipment, but his assignment was different. He was to travel into the nearby settlement, a place where humans had been invited as guests, to observe and learn. The path to the settlement was lined with tall plants that glowed faintly, giving off soft blue light. Some of the plants bent toward Aaron as he passed, reacting to his movement. He found it fascinating and paused to study them, recording details in his handheld device. But soon he continued walking, his curiosity pulling him forward. The settlement revealed itself at the end of the path. Buildings were not made of stone or metal, but of living structures grown from the land itself. Towering, crystal-like trees, arched together to form roofs. Transparent walls pulsed faintly with colors alive and breathing. The entire city looked like a part of nature, not separate from it. Aaron walked carefully, aware that every step might attract attention. And indeed, the Iltherans watched him. Their eyes were large and bright, their movements fluid and silent. Some offered polite gestures, a tilt of the head or a wave of a slender hand. Others simply stared with guarded expressions. Aaron gave a respectful nod to each one. He wanted to show kindness, not arrogance. Humans were still new here, and he knew how important first impressions could be. He entered the market square, where dozens of stalls offered glowing fruits, woven fabrics that seemed to shift colors, and tools made from living crystal. The air buzzed with sound, not loud, but filled with a melody of alien voices. It was both strange and peaceful at the same time. As Aaron explored, something caught his eye. Among the many Iltherans, one figure stood out. A woman, taller than most, with silver blue hair flowing like water, and eyes that shone with deep violet light. She stood behind a small stall, arranging items that looked like carved stones but glowed faintly as if holding energy inside. Aaron felt drawn to her presence. She seemed calm, yet powerful, like someone carrying secrets. He approached, slowly, not wanting to appear rude. "Hello," he said in a steady voice. "I am Aaron, from the human colony. May I see your work?" The woman looked up. For a moment, her expression was unreadable. Then, with a soft voice, she replied, "You may." Aaron picked up one of the glowing stones. It felt warm in his hand, vibrating faintly. "This is amazing," he said honestly. "What is it?" "It is a memory crystal," she explained. "It holds thoughts and feelings. We use them to keep our history alive." Aaron nodded with genuine admiration. "On Earth, we write books or store information in machines, but this is alive." The woman studied him closely. There was curiosity in her gaze, but also something deeper, something cautious. As Aaron handed the crystal back, the sleeve of his exploration suit shifted slightly, revealing part of his forearm. A faint scar ran across his skin, pale against the rest of his arm. It was not large, just a thin line, but it carried a history of its own. a reminder of an accident years ago when he had saved a friend during training. The woman's eyes widened. Her hand froze above the crystals. For a moment, she did not move at all. Her breath caught in her throat. Aaron noticed the change immediately. "Is something wrong?" he asked, looking at her with concern. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "Your arm, that mark." Aaron glanced at his scar. "This? It's just an old injury. Nothing special." The woman stepped back slightly, her violet eyes filled with shock. "No," she whispered. "You do not understand. That scar, it is not supposed to exist. Not here. Not now." Confused, Aaron tried to ease the tension. "It's just from an accident. Why does it matter to you?" But the woman shook her head. Her hands trembled as she pointed at the scar. You cannot be real." The market around them grew quieter. Some Iltherans nearby turned to look, sensing the strange energy in the air. Aaron felt all eyes on him, yet he had no idea why a simple scar could cause such a reaction. He took a cautious step closer, lowering his voice. "What do you mean? Why does this scar matter?" The woman did not answer at once. Her expression shifted between fear and wonder, like someone seeing a ghost from an old legend. At last she whispered, "That mark is from a story told to our children, a story of a human with a scar who would one day walk among us again. But it was only a myth, a dream of the past. You should not exist." Aaron's heart raced. A myth? A prophecy? About humans? He could hardly believe what he was hearing. But the fear in her eyes was real. "Who are you?" he asked softly. The woman straightened, though her hands still shook. "My name is Lyra, and if what I see is true, then your arrival will change everything for my people and for yours." Aaron felt the weight of her words settle inside him. He had come expecting to study and learn, but now he realized something far greater had begun. The scar he thought was ordinary had just opened a door to a mystery that connected two worlds. And standing before him, Lyra seemed to know more than she was willing to say. The market returned to its rhythm, but for Aaron nothing felt the same. The alien woman had frozen when she saw his scar, and her words echoed in his mind. You can't be real." The air in the market still carried an uneasy silence even after people resumed their trades. Aaron could feel the stares lingering on his back as he stood before Lyra. She was no longer calm and graceful as she had been a moment ago. Now her hands clutched the edge of her stall, and her violet eyes avoided his. Aaron cleared his throat. "Lyra," he said carefully, "please tell me what you know about this scar. Why does it matter so much?" Her lips parted as if to answer, but then she pressed them together, shaking her head. "Not here," she whispered. "Too many ears." Aaron nodded. He could see her hesitation. If there was a secret tied to his scar, she was not ready to share it in public. "Then where?" he asked. She lifted her gaze and looked toward the edge of the market where a forest of glowing trees stretched beyond. "Meet me after the sun sets. There is a place where we can speak." Before Aaron could respond, a group of Iltherans approached the stall. Their tall frames and sharp eyes gave away their role, guards or watchers of the settlement. They looked at Aaron with suspicion, then turned their focus to Lyra. "Is everything well?" one of them asked, his voice calm but carrying authority. Lyra forced a small smile. "Yes, everything is fine." The guard's eyes moved back to Aaron, studying him for a long moment. Finally, he gave a small nod and walked away with his companions. Aaron exhaled slowly. He could sense the weight of tension around him. He left the stall politely, thanking Lyra for showing him the crystals, though his mind was restless with questions. The day passed in a blur. Aaron tried to focus on his assignment, recording details about Iltheran life, architecture, and culture. But every thought returned to Lyra's reaction. Why had she frozen? Why had she whispered words filled with fear and disbelief? And most of all, what prophecy could connect his scar to a people who lived light years away from Earth? When the twin suns of Ilthera dipped low, the sky painted itself in bands of gold and violet. Aaron slipped away from the human quarters, moving quietly toward the forest Lyra had pointed at earlier. The forest glowed softly under the fading light. Each tree pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, like veins of light flowing through living crystal. The ground was soft and moss-like, glowing faintly under his boots. Strange winged creatures floated past, their bodies trailing sparkles as they moved. Aaron stopped when he saw a figure waiting near a cluster of crystal pillars. Lyra. Her silver-blue hair caught the light of the forest, making her seem almost unreal. "You came," she said softly. "I had to," Aaron replied. "I need to know what this scar means." Lyra gestured for him to sit on a smooth stone. She remained standing, her hands folded in front of her as if steadying herself for what she was about to reveal. "The scar on your arm," she began slowly, "is not just an accident. It matches the mark described in one of our oldest tales. A tale passed down for generations." Aaron frowned. "A tale about humans?" Lyra nodded. "Yes. Long ago, before your people disappeared from our skies, there was an alliance between Iltherans and humans. They stood side by side against a great threat. It is said one human bore a scar given not by chance, but by destiny. That scar became the symbol of unity, the mark of the bridge." Aaron touched his forearm unconsciously. "But my scar is just from training. I cut myself on metal years ago." Lyra shook her head. "Perhaps that is what you believe. But the mark you carry is identical to the symbol carved in our sacred halls. It is too exact to be mere chance." Aaron tried to process her words. "You're saying I was meant to have this scar?" "I do not know if it is fate," Lyra admitted. "But our legends say a human would return bearing this mark to remind both our peoples that unity is possible again. To some, that idea is dangerous." "Dangerous?" Aaron asked. "Yes," Lyra said, her voice tightening. "Not everyone among us wants humans here. Some believe the old alliance brought only destruction. If they learn you carry the mark, they may see you as a threat." Aaron looked around the glowing forest, unease creeping into him. "Then why tell me? Why not hide this from me?" Lyra's eyes softened. "Because the moment I saw your scar, I knew the stories were true. And if the stories are true, then you have a part to play. Hiding will not change that." For a long moment, silence filled the forest, broken only by the hum of glowing insects. Aaron felt the weight of her words pressing on him. He had come as an explorer, expecting to learn and observe, but now he was caught in something far larger. "Tell me about the prophecy," he said finally. "I need to know everything." Lyra hesitated. Then she began to walk, motioning for him to follow. She led him deeper into the forest where the glowing trees grew taller and thicker. Soon they reached a wide clearing. At its center stood a stone monument, covered in symbols that glowed faintly in the dark. "This is one of our oldest places," Lyra explained. "Few come here now, but the markings tell the story." Aaron stepped closer, running his hand gently over the stone. The carvings depicted tall Iltherans and shorter figures that looked unmistakably human. They stood together, facing a shadowy shape with jagged edges. "What is that?" Aaron asked, pointing at the shadowy carving. "A great enemy from beyond." "The stars," Lyra said softly. "We do not know if it was a race, a machine, or something else entirely. But long ago, it nearly destroyed us. Only with human help did we survive." Aaron's eyes moved across the carvings. He saw one figure with a mark on the arm, a scar identical to his own. The figure stood at the center, between Iltherans and humans, connecting them. "It's me," Aaron whispered. Lyra nodded. "It is, the mark of the bridge. The one who carries it was said to unite our people when the stars grew dark again." Aaron stepped back, shaking his head. "This doesn't make sense. I'm just one man. I didn't come here to fulfill some prophecy. I came to study, to learn. That's all." Lyra placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. Her touch was gentle, but her voice was firm. Sometimes destiny does not ask if you are ready. It simply arrives. Aaron met her eyes. For the first time, he saw not just curiosity or fear in them, but trust. She believed in the legend, and by seeing his scar, she believed in him. Before he could respond, a rustling sound came from the trees. Lyra quickly pulled her hand back. From the shadows, 3 Iltherans stepped into the clearing. Their faces were stern, their armor glinting faintly in the light. "What are you doing here, Lyra?" one of them demanded. His gaze moved sharply to Aaron. "And why is a human standing before the sacred stone?" Lyra's jaw tightened. "This is not your concern," she said. But the guard's eyes narrowed. "It is our concern if a human trespasses where he should not, especially one carrying that mark." His gaze fell on Aaron's scar, and his expression darkened. Aaron felt his pulse quicken. Lyra stepped protectively in front of him. "You will not touch him," she said, firmly. The guards exchanged looks. One of them smirked. "Be careful, Lyra. You may protect him now, but if others learn of this, not even you will stop what comes." With that warning, they turned and disappeared back into the trees. Aaron exhaled slowly. "They know," he said. Lyra's expression was grim. "Yes. And now it begins." Aaron looked at the monument once more. The figure with the scar stared back at him across centuries of stone. He had thought himself only an explorer. But now, he was something else entirely, something even he did not understand yet. The scar that once meant nothing had become a symbol of hope, fear, and destiny. And as Lyra's words echoed in his mind, he knew the path ahead would not be simple. Kyakir, alien woman, had seen his scar and whispered, "You can't be real." But real or not, the legend had awakened. The next morning on Ilthera began with golden light spilling across the alien horizon. 2 suns rose slowly, filling the skies with violet streaks that shimmered against the glowing forests. The settlement woke with calm activity, Iltherans, moving gracefully through the crystal streets, children playing with luminous creatures, and traders arranging their stalls for another day. But for Aaron, calm was far away. His mind replayed the events of the night before. Lyra's story of the prophecy, the ancient carvings, and the guards who had seen his scar. Every detail carried a weight he could not shake. He had come to observe and learn, not to be the center of alien legends. Lyra arrived quietly at the human quarters just as Aaron finished checking his notes. She wore a hooded garment that covered most of her face, hiding her striking silver-blue hair. "You should not stay here long," she said softly. "The guards who saw us will not keep silent. Word will spread." Aaron glanced at her. "What will they say?" "That a human bears the mark of the bridge," she replied. "Some will fear it, others will try to use it. None will ignore it." Aaron sighed. "So what happens now?" Lyra looked around, then leaned closer. "Now you must decide if you will hide, or if you will face what the prophecy demands." Her words carried a challenge, but also a trace of respect. Aaron did not answer right away. He needed time, yet time was exactly what he did not have. Later, that day Aaron walked through the settlement with Lyra guiding him. They kept to quieter paths away from the busier markets. Still, he noticed more Iltherans staring than before. Some whispered behind crystal walls, others turned away quickly when he met their gaze. "Do they all know already?" Aaron asked. Quietly, Lyra's lips pressed into a thin line. "Rumors move faster than truth, but yes, they suspect. And when suspicion grows, danger follows." As they entered a narrow alley, a voice called out, "Human!" Aaron turned. 3 Iltherans stood at the far end, their posture tense, their eyes hard. They were not guards, but carried long staffs that glowed faintly with energy. "Stay behind." "Me?" Lyra whispered. The Iltherans stepped closer. "Show us the mark," one demanded. "We have heard the whispers. We want to see if the stories are true." Aaron felt tension rise in his chest. "It's just a scar," he said calmly. "It doesn't mean anything." But they did not believe him. One stepped forward, raising his staff. Then show it, and prove your words. Before Aaron could react, Lyra raised her hand. A faint shimmer of energy spread around her fingers. Enough, she said firmly. You will not touch him. Dembe. Ilthrans hesitated. They looked at Lyra with a mixture of anger and caution. You protect him because you believe the tale, one spat. But if the prophecy returns, it will bring war, not peace. Without another word, they turned and disappeared into the shadows. Aaron exhaled shakily. That was close. Lyra nodded. It will not be the last time. That evening, Aaron sat alone in his small human quarters, staring at his scar. His fingers traced the pale line on his skin. He remembered how he got it. Metal slicing across his arm during training, pain sharp and sudden, blood spilling fast. He had thought it was just a memory, nothing more. But now it was a symbol powerful enough to unsettle an entire civilization. He whispered to himself, "Why me?" The door slid open quietly. Lyra stepped inside. She carried a small crystal lantern, its glow casting soft patterns on the walls. "You are troubled," she said gently. Aaron gave a weak laugh. "That's an understatement." She placed the lantern on the table and sat across from him. For a moment, they sat in silence. Then Lyra spoke, her voice calm and steady. "When I was young, my grandmother told me the story of the scarred human. She said the human would return when Ilthra faced shadows again. I never believed it. It was just a tale to me. But when I saw your arm yesterday, it was like looking at a living piece of history. I froze because I did not know whether to fear you or to trust you." Aaron listened quietly. Her honesty touched him. "I'm not a hero," he said finally. "I'm not here to save anyone. I'm just a man who came to learn." Lyra tilted her head slightly. "Perhaps that is why you may succeed. Heroes often bring pride and destruction. But those who come to learn bring understanding. That is what my people need." Her words settled in Aaron's heart. He did not reply, but he knew she was right. He could not run from this, not anymore. The next day, the hidden threat revealed itself more clearly. While walking with Lyra near the edge of the settlement, they noticed unusual movement. Ilthran guards were patrolling more heavily, and whispers carried through the air like sparks before a fire. Suddenly, a loud crack split the air. Aaron and Lyra turned to see smoke rising from the center of the settlement. People screamed and scattered as energy blasts struck near the marketplace. "An attack," Lyra said sharply, pulling Aaron toward cover. A group of masked Ilthrans moved through the chaos, their weapons glowing with unstable energy. They were not ordinary guards. They were rebels, a faction that rejected human presence. Their leader, tall and broad-shouldered, shouted above the noise. "The scarred human walks among us. He is the sign of ruin. We must end this before it begins." Aaron's blood ran cold. They were here for him. Lyra's hand gripped his tightly. "We must move." They ran through the twisting paths of the settlement, ducking between crystal structures. Energy blasts cracked behind them, scattering shards of glowing stone. Aaron's heart pounded as he followed Lyra, relying on her knowledge of the city. At last, they reached a hidden chamber beneath a large crystal tower. Lyra sealed the door with a touch of her hand, and the hum of protective energy filled the air. Aaron bent over, catching his breath. "They want me dead," he said. Lyra nodded grimly. "Yes. The faction fears the prophecy. They believe your scar means war, and they will try to stop it before it begins." Aaron clenched his fists. "And what about the others? The people in the market, are they safe?" Lyra's eyes softened. "Some will be hurt, but most will survive. My people are strong." Aaron shook his head. "I can't just hide here while others suffer. If this is about me, then I have to face it." Lyra studied him for a long moment. Then she gave a small smile. "That is the human way, isn't it? To stand in the middle of danger, even when Afraid? Aaron looked at his scar again. If this really means something, then I can't run from it. Lyra's voice grew quiet. Then you must be ready. This is only the beginning. The rebels will not stop. They believe ending you will end the prophecy itself. Aaron straightened. Then let them try. I won't make it easy. That night, the settlement still buzzed with fear. Guards doubled their patrols. Whispers filled the streets. The rebels had escaped after causing chaos, but their message had spread. The scarred human was real. Aaron stood at the window of his quarters, watching the glowing forests beyond. He felt the weight of 1,000 questions pressing down on him. Could one man truly change the fate of 2 worlds? Was he strong enough to carry such a burden? Behind him, Lyra spoke softly. You are no longer just an explorer, Aaron. You are a symbol. Whether you wish it or not, you carry hope for some and fear for others. Aaron turned, meeting her violet eyes. Then I'll carry it. Because if I don't, the wrong people will twist it into something dark. Lyra's expression softened into something close to admiration. Perhaps that is why you were chosen. Not because you wanted this, but because you are willing to bear it. Outside, the stars shone brighter than ever, as if watching silently. Somewhere in those stars, threats might already be moving. And here, on Ilthera, the prophecy had awakened. The hidden threat was no longer in the shadows. It had stepped into the light, and Aaron knew the fight for unity had only just begun. The days after the rebel attack passed with uneasy calm. The settlement stood strong, but its people were restless. Whispers of the scarred human filled every corner. Some Iltherans avoided Aaron altogether, crossing the street when he passed. Others stared openly, their eyes full of questions they dared not ask. Aaron felt the pressure growing heavier each day. He had never wanted to be the center of attention, yet now his scar had made him a symbol in a story he barely understood. Lyra stayed close. She guided him through the settlement quietly, speaking only when necessary. He could tell she carried her own burden, protecting him from those who feared the prophecy, and from those who wished to twist it. On the 3rd evening, Lyra led Aaron beyond the glowing forests to a valley hidden between tall cliffs. The air was cooler there, and the sky stretched wide above, filled with thousands of stars. In the center of the valley stood a massive crystal structure shaped like a dome. Its surface glowed faintly, alive with colors that shifted slowly like breathing light. This is the Hall of Memory, Lyra said softly. Few humans have seen it. Fewer still have entered. Aaron stared in awe. The structure seemed ancient, older than the settlement itself. He felt as though it had stood for centuries, waiting. Why bring me here? He asked. Lyra looked at him seriously. Because you must hear the full truth. If you are truly the one from the prophecy, then this hall will show you. Inside, the hall was vast and echoing. The walls shimmered with images that shifted as they walked. Iltheran elders, warriors, and children appeared in glowing fragments of memory, fading and returning like ripples of water. The air carried a low hum, as if the hall itself was alive. At the center of the dome stood a circular platform. Lyra motioned for Aaron to step onto it. Place your hand on the stone, she instructed, pointing to a crystal pillar that rose from the floor. Aaron hesitated. What will happen? The hall will recognize you, she said simply. Aaron swallowed hard, then placed his scarred arm against the pillar. The reaction was immediate. Light flared across the hall, flooding the walls with new images. The hum deepened into a resonant tone that vibrated through the floor. Aaron gasped as visions filled the space around him. Not dreams, but memories carved into crystal long ago. He saw humans standing beside Iltherans, their hands joined, their faces resolute. Together they faced a vast shadow that spread across the stars. The shadow was shapeless, shifting like smoke, but its presence was heavy with menace. Aaron saw battles fought in space, ships burning as they fell, Iltheran cities nearly torn apart. He saw leaders from both species standing together, refusing to break even as the enemy closed in. And then he saw a single figure, a human with a scar on his arm, standing at the center of the alliance. His face was not clear, but his presence was undeniable. He was the bridge, the one who united two peoples when hope seemed lost. The vision faded, leaving the hall silent once more. Aaron staggered back, his chest heaving. Lyra watched him closely. Now you understand? The scar is more than a mark. It is a symbol tied to our very survival. Aaron shook his head slowly. That was thousands of years ago, wasn't it? Lyra nodded. Yes, and yet the hall remembers. The prophecy says the bridge would return when the stars grew dark again. It seems that time is near. Aaron clenched his fists. But why me? Why this scar? I didn't choose this. I'm not a warrior or a leader. I'm just human. Lyra interrupted gently. That is enough. Do you not see? It is not your strength alone that matters. It is what humans bring, the will to adapt, to create, to endure. That is what my people have always admired, even if some now fear it. Her word struck Aaron deeply. For so long he had felt ordinary, just another explorer among many. But now he was being asked to carry the weight of legends. As they left the hall, Aaron noticed shadows moving among the cliffs. Lyra saw them too, and pulled him back into the doorway. Figures emerged, cloaked and armed, the rebels. They followed us, Aaron whispered. Lyra's eyes narrowed. They will not allow you to live if they believe the prophecy is true. The rebels spread out, cutting off escape. Their leader stepped forward, the same broad-shouldered Iltheran who had shouted in the marketplace days before. His voice was sharp with anger. The scarred human dares to enter the hall of memory. He dares to claim the prophecy. We will end this here. Aaron felt fear tighten his chest, but he forced himself to stand straight. I never claimed anything. I didn't ask for this. Lies, the rebel leader spat. Your very presence is a danger. The last time humans walked with us, we nearly lost everything. We will not make that mistake again. The rebels raised their weapons. Energy hummed dangerously. Lyra stepped forward, her voice firm. If you strike him, you strike the prophecy itself. Do you not see? Killing him will not save us, it will doom us, but the rebels were unmoved. The leader pointed his weapon. Aaron's instincts screamed at him to run, but he knew there was no escape. Instead, he did the only thing he could think of. He raised his hands, showing he carried no weapon. I'm not your enemy, he said loudly. I don't want war. I don't want power. I only want to learn, to understand, and to help if I can. If this scar means anything, then maybe it means I'm here to remind you that we don't have to face the future alone. The words hung in the air. For a moment, the rebels hesitated. Some glanced at each other uncertainly. Lyra looked at him with surprise, her eyes softening. She had expected him to defend himself with fear or anger, not with honesty and hope. The rebel leader's face twisted, but his voice was less steady now. Empty words. Humans always promise hope, but they bring ruin. Aaron shook his head. Not ruin. Resilience. We make mistakes, yes, but we keep moving forward. That is what humans do. That is what makes us strong. His voice carried through the valley, and the silence that followed was heavy. At last, the rebels lowered their weapons slightly. They were not convinced, but they were no longer eager to strike. The leader glared at Aaron, then turned sharply. This is not over. If the prophecy truly awakens, we will not stand idle. With that, the rebels withdrew into the shadows. Later, as they walked back toward the settlement, Lyra looked at Aaron with new eyes. You spoke with courage, she said quietly. Aaron gave a small, tired smile. I just spoke the truth. I don't want to fight your people. I want to walk beside them. Lyra's expression softened further. That is why they listened. Do you not see? You are becoming what the prophecy described, not through force but through unity. Aaron thought about her words as they walked under the glowing trees. For the first time, he began to feel the weight of his role, not only as a burden but as a chance. A chance to prove that humanity's greatest strength was not in weapons or power but in connection. When they reached the settlement, Ilthuran elders awaited them. Word of what had happened had already reached their ears. The eldest among them stepped forward, her voice steady but curious. "Human," she said, "we hear you carry the mark. We hear you spoke of unity even when threatened. Tell us, do you truly believe humans and Ilthurans can stand together again?" Aaron looked around at the watching faces. Some were fearful, some hopeful. He felt Lyra's presence beside him, steady and reassuring. "Yes," he said firmly, "I believe we are stronger together, and if my scar is a symbol of that, then I will carry it with pride." The elder studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Then perhaps the prophecy is not a curse, but a gift." That night, as Arin and Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking the glowing city, Lyra whispered, "The revelation has begun. You are no longer just a visitor, Aaron. You are the bridge." Aaron stared at the stars above. He felt fear, yes, but also resolve. The prophecy was real, and whether he liked it or not, he was part of it now. The scar on his arm burned faintly under the starlight, as though reminding him of the path ahead. And in that moment, he knew the greatest challenge was yet to come. The next morning, the settlement awoke to a strange silence. The usual hum of voices, the calls of vendors in the market, and the laughter of children seemed muted. People gathered in the streets, all looking upward. A shadow moved across the sky. At first, Aaron thought it was a storm cloud, but then he saw the shape, vast and unnatural. A colossal vessel hovered high above, its surface shifting like smoke solidified into metal. Lyra's face went pale. "It is them," she whispered. "The shadow from the prophecy," Aaron said. His chest tightened as he remembered the vision in the Hall of Memory. Alarm spread through the city. Ilthuran guards rushed to the walls while elders gathered in the square. The air was thick with fear. One of the elders turned to Lyra and Aaron. "The prophecy speaks of darkness returning from the void. It seems the time has come sooner than we hoped." Aaron clenched his fists. "Then we face it together." The vessel descended slowly, stopping just above the valley. From its underside, beams of pale light stretched down, touching the ground. Figures stepped out, tall, thin, and strange. Their bodies seemed half solid, half shadow, like they were caught between worlds. The Ilthurans murmured in fear. Children were pulled close to parents. Even the guards, armed and ready, took uncertain steps back. The leader of the being spoke, its voice echoing like wind through hollow stone. "Ilthura, humanity, your union once denied us. Now the stars are ours. Surrender the scarred one, and your end will be swift." The words hit Aaron like a blade. He knew they meant him. Lyra stepped in front of him. Her voice was steady, though her hands trembled. "We will not surrender him. He is not yours." The shadow being tilted its head. "Then you will fall, as before." The ground shook as energy pulsed from the vessel. Aaron staggered, grabbing Lyra's arm. Around them, panic spread. The Ilthurans were brave, but they had seen this enemy before. Many believed the battle was already lost. Aaron's mind raced. He was not a soldier, not a chosen hero, yet he could not let fear break them. He raised his voice, forcing it to carry across the square. "Listen to me. They want me because they fear me. Not my strength, not my weapons, but what I represent. Humans and Ilthurans together, that is what they are afraid of." The Ilthurans looked at him uncertainly. Some nodded, others shook their heads. Aaron pressed on. "They want to divide us, but the prophecy doesn't speak of one person saving the stars. It speaks of a bridge, and a bridge is only strong when both sides hold it. If we stand together, they cannot break us." The elder raised her hand. "He speaks the truth. Alone, we will fall. Together we may yet stand." A murmur of agreement spread. The fear in the crowd slowly shifted into resolve. Lyra turned to Aaron. her eyes bright with fierce determination. "What do we do?" Aaron took a deep breath. "We fight. Not with fear, but with unity. If humans and Iltherin stand side by side, then the prophecy is fulfilled." The enemy struck. Shadow beings poured from the vessel, their forms twisting as they advanced. Their weapons spat beams of pale energy that scorched the ground. Iltherin. Guards formed lines, shields raised. Citizens took cover, but many grabbed whatever tools they could find to fight. For the first time, they were not just defending their homes. They were defending hope. Aaron stood among them, armed only with determination. Lyra handed him a staff-like weapon, its surface glowing faintly. "Stay close," she said. The first clash was thunderous. Energy blasts met Iltherin's shields, lighting the valley in flashes of color. Aaron swung the staff clumsily, but Lyra guided his movements. Together, they struck down one of the shadow beings. Its form dissolved into smoke. Vanishing into the air, Aaron's heart pounded. "They can be beaten," he shouted. The words spread like fire. Iltherins who had hesitated now surged forward, striking with renewed strength. But the enemy was vast. For every shadow that fell, more emerged. The ground shook as the colossal vessel above unleashed another wave of energy. Aaron looked up, realizing they could not win by numbers alone. The vessel itself was the heart of the invasion. If it was not stopped, the shadows would keep coming. He turned to Lyra. "We have to reach that ship." She stared at him in shock. "It's impossible. The vessel is protected by barriers. No one can reach it." Aaron touched his scar, feeling the faint heat under his skin. "Maybe no Iltherin can, but maybe I can." Lyra's eyes widened as she understood. "The prophecy?" "Yes," Aaron said firmly. "The scar is the key. The hall showed me. It wasn't just a mark of the past, it was a link. If I can reach the vessel, maybe I can disrupt them." Lyra hesitated only a moment, then nodded. "Then I will take you there." They fought their way through the battlefield. Aaron and Lyra moved as one, striking down enemies and dodging blasts. Other Iltherins, inspired by their courage, opened paths for them. At the valley's edge, beams of light still stretched down from the vessel. The air shimmered with strange energy, but Aaron felt the scar burning brighter now, guiding him forward. Lyra held his arm tightly. "If you go in, there may be no return." Aaron met her eyes. "If this is the role I was meant to play, then so be it, but I won't go alone. You're with me." Lyra's expression softened. She nodded once, her grip firm. Together. They stepped into the beam of light. Instantly their bodies lifted, pulled upward into the vessel. Inside, the ship was dark and alive, its walls pulsing as though made of living shadow. Strange whispers echoed in their ears, promising power, threatening despair. Aaron pushed forward, the scar on his arm glowing like a torch in the darkness. The shadows recoiled from it, hissing as they fell back. At the center of the chamber stood a vast core of swirling darkness. It pulsed like a heart, feeding the ship. The shadow leader appeared before them, taller and darker than the rest. Its voice shook the air. "You cannot win, Scarred One. This union will fall as all unions fall. Give in, and your suffering will end." Aaron stepped forward, lifting his glowing arm. "No, you fear me because I remind you of what you cannot destroy, hope." The core pulsed violently, sending waves of force through the chamber. Lyra was thrown back, but Aaron stood firm, his scar blazing. He pressed his hand against the core. Pain surged through him as if the darkness was trying to pull him apart, but he held on, shouting through the pain. "We are stronger together. Humans and Iltherins side by side. This is the future you cannot erase." The scar flared with blinding light. The core shrieked, its shadows unraveling. The ship trembled violently. Lyra scrambled to her feet, rushing to Aaron's side. "Aaron!" He looked at her, his face strained but resolute. "It's working, hold on to me." She grabbed his hand, adding her strength to his. Together, human and Iltherin, they pushed the light deeper into the core. With a final shudder, the vessel split apart. The shadows screamed as their forms dissolved into nothing. The sky above the valley cleared, stars shining bright once more. When Aaron and Lyra awoke, they were lying on the ground in the valley. The vessel was gone, its shadow erased. Around them, Iltherans gathered, their faces filled with awe. The elder stepped forward, her voice trembling with emotion. The bridge has held. The prophecy is fulfilled. Aaron sat up slowly, still weak from the strain. Lyra helped him stand, her eyes shining with relief. "You did it," she whispered. "No," Aaron said, shaking his head. "We did it. Together." The Iltherans cheered, their voices rising into the night sky. For the first time in generations, hope burned bright. That evening, the settlement held a gathering. Lights filled the city, and songs of unity echoed across the streets. Aaron stood among them, not as an outsider, but as one of them. Lyra approached, holding out her hand. "You came as a visitor, but you will leave as more than that. You are the bridge between our peoples. You are proof that humanity's greatest strength is not in war, but in connection." Aaron smiled, taking her hand. "Then let's make sure the bridge never falls." The crowd cheered again, and the stars above seemed brighter than ever. The scar on Aaron's arm still glowed faintly, not as a burden, but as a reminder of unity, of hope, and of the future humanity and Ilthera would build together. And in that moment, the prophecy was no longer a shadow of the past. It was a promise of tomorrow.